Yes, everyone, welcome back to another episode of What the Devil. We're on episode 17. Today, it's Kane and I. We're going to be talking about Amad Diallo. We're going to be talking about what Wayne Rooney was talking about on Sky Sports. We're going to be talking about the VAR stuff that's just come out. And yeah, we're going to start with the Amad Diallo stuff. But first of all, remember to listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts if you can't watch on YouTube on the go. But yeah, Newcastle game less than 24 hours ago. And I think I actually had quite a lot of fun watching that game. Because, you know, there was a bit of jeopardy, a bit more jeopardy than we maybe wanted. But ultimately, I really enjoyed watching Amad play. Considering the fact that this guy has been on the bench since, mid-December, sometimes not in the squad. Erik ten Hag for months has been saying, yeah, he deserves his chance, continues to play like Antony or something on the right wing. And he's been so much better than I thought he was. I was thinking, you know, get some good numbers. He's been unreal.
I was part of Amad fan club from day one. But it is like really impressive that, because even though a lot of people knew that he was quality, coming into an Arsenal game and then Newcastle, both really difficult teams to play against this season, and he's just come into it like that and really fit in straight away. He's got a good blend. Like, a lot of people talk about the Sancho/Antony kind of winger where, United have a winger who might keep the ball a bit more, might try to look for the pass a bit more, and then you've got Garnacho and Rashford. Amad's somewhere in between. Like, he can do what Sancho and Antony are supposed to do in terms of keeping the ball, knowing what to do with it, not really making too many wrong decisions on the ball. But then he's also got just like such good feet. Like, that little interchange between him and Mainu in the box was like beautiful.
Oh, that was lovely, yeah.
But yeah, I'm not surprised that he's doing well now that he's finally getting game time, but considering the opposition, like, I think he has maybe surprised a few different people.
You know what I've thought yesterday, which really caught me off guard? Actually, there's two things. Obviously, you know, here we like to be positive when we can. It's quite hard to be positive sometimes with United, but we do try to be positive here. He had a lot more presence than I thought he did, or what I remember. So obviously, I've not seen him play like for significant minutes in 887 days, or was it 890 days since his last start, something like that. On the ball, it kind of, he had obviously the Garnacho like willingness to run, but he seemed like a little more in a good way, like tapered. And Garnacho's quite a bit all over the place. That's part of what makes him such a great player. But also at the same time, Amad has gone the other way, and he seems slightly more like calm and composed on the ball, and really, really quick thinker, really, really quick feet. And he was like kind of, when he had the ball, it felt like he had more kind of presence and authority and stuff with it. Like, he was getting the ball and he was thinking, right, okay, I'm going to go this way and go that way. It's nice to see a right winger come inside, but also choose to sometimes go outside, but not look like he was always going inside.
Yeah, he could switch it up. It's interesting, like the calmness, which you say about. I literally was looking, for some reason, I just looked at my old Amad tweets yesterday after the game, and his assist, I remember one of his first games for the under-21s, it must have been, or 23s, and I tweeted in mid-2021, and I was like, Amad's got a pre-assist and an assist from cutting in from the right wing, keeping calm, and slotting a ball in behind for someone. And that's exactly how he got his assist. I think he was a little bit lucky with, I think Bruno done well to kind of disguise it and let it go through his legs, but still, it was almost the same thing, and he's always had that real calm nature, even when he was in the Championship with Sunderland, and like, that's well known to be a really physical league, really hard for these type of players to excel in. But he did, because he's got that calming nature, because he doesn't really get too flustered when he gets pressed, when he's under pressure from different players. He's just quite a calm character, and yeah, I mean, the goal topped it off as well, because that was an unbelievable finish.
Yeah, one thing I do want to touch on is the goal. And it kind of felt like it was coming, because we had maybe like 4 corners before that where he was always corners from the kind of United's left wing, the corner there. Yeah, he was then sat on the edge of the area with no one marking him, and that's clear. Like, obviously, it was something that they had worked on the entire time. I don't know if Amad had done something in training before that had made the coaches go, wow, he's got a hell of a left foot from like that edge of the area. Obviously, he clearly does, because he took a couple of the shots beforehand with the same sort of technique, and it got blocked.
It was a really difficult on the bounce as well. Like that's hard to get a connection on.
It's not an easy at all. But I think kind of what that indicates to me is that I think they're actually, for all like Ten Hag's not playing him, and then some people were saying maybe he's throwing Amad in right at the last minute so that if he doesn't play well, Ten Hag can go, see, that's where I started Antony. But that, to me, showed that Ten Hag actually has trust in Ahmad to be the focal point of at least one of their set-piece types. Well, like one of their set-piece routines, because he ultimately is the guy who was at the edge of the area taking that shot, meaning that he was the person who's in the middle of that corner routine.
Yeah, in general, that point, I was thinking about that point the other day because I was looking and it was like all of his sub-appearances. I mean, it doesn't help that United have been just poor overall, so any sub's going to come into losing positions. But it was like every single substitution, it was either United were losing, we just conceded and like it was an equaliser, we were going into extra time against Coventry or Liverpool. Like they were all like difficult situations to come into a game. And even his starts, like I've mentioned, Arsenal and Newcastle, almost all of his chances since he's got back from injury, you'd go, wouldn't want to come in there really. Like as a impact
it's not like
player.
He's given someone like Ethan Wheatley minutes in the last 10 minutes of a game or something.
Yeah, it's like difficult circumstances, and in a lot of the game, like there's been a few where he's not really impacted too much, but the most part, obviously the Liverpool goal was the tops it, but he's just had solid performances off the bench, like nothing entirely special like we saw yesterday, because he actually got to play a full 90 minutes. And I do think Ahmad's the type of player that he's not going to be an impact sub massively, apart from maybe a goal or two against Liverpool, but he is the type of player you want to play over the 90 minutes, because like you said, he takes the ball and like takes authority almost, and those type of players, like he's not as direct as a Garnacho. Obviously Garnacho was like really good off the bench last year because of how direct he was. He's more calculated but still quite brave in possession. But yeah, no, I mean he's got to start the FA Cup final now. I mean, he's got one more start to go against Brighton, but his position should be safe, because honestly, like, that was the best right wing performance we've... Actually, to be fair, Garnacho's moved across there and had some good performances, but from one of our natural right wingers, that's probably the best performance of the season from... Sancho didn't play at the start of the season, but from Antony.
Antony had one good game against Chelsea, and even then he gave away a pen.
But yeah, no, he's really... It's just a shame, like, that 3 years of his development has essentially been kind of... I don't want to say ruined, because he had a really good loan at Sunderland, but we could have done so much better. Like, thankfully, he's only 21, because we got him when he was like 17, just turning 18. Yeah. So, thankfully, there's still loads of time for him to really become like a big player for United. But really, he should have been playing in our first team under Ollie, I think.
You think on what? Under Ollie, when he was like 18, 19?
I think if you looked back to that point and you had Greenwood and Dan James left, who did we actually... I don't think we signed like another right winger immediately. I can't think, but... No, don't think we did. I think during that point, when Greenwood was playing, I think Ahmad should have been a rotation player at that point under Ollie. Because I don't know, I think... We'll never know, but personally, I thought he was ready that season after he came in. He came in the January, he played like 2 months in the academy, had a few months in and around the first team,
was that when scored
the goal,
the AC Milan goal?
Mad header.
That was lovely.
And then, to be fair, injuries have also played their part, but it's all been to do with going on loan, because I think he would have went on loan at the start of the season though, if he didn't get that injury.
Yeah, no, I think the original plan was he was going to go on loan to either a Premier League club or back to the Championship. Because obviously I think Sunderland was sniffing around, and a couple of the bigger Championship clubs, like Leicester or whatever, would have been sniffing around as well. And then obviously he got injured, and then in January he didn't want to go on loan. The club decided to keep him, and then he still didn't play.
Yeah.
It is weird, but I mean, we don't know if... This may have been the best course of action. We're not sure. Yeah. Because it feels like he's got, like, looking at the photo. So for audio listeners, we're looking at a photo of Ahmad celebrating last night. He's like got a bit of muscle on him. I remember when we first signed him, he was really skinny. Yeah. He does look like he's bulked up a tiny bit. Still, obviously slim.
We don't want another player over bulking at United.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we really don't.
He'll come back and look like Lukaku next season.
Oh no.
After that one season.
I was looking through photos of Lukaku the other day because I think it was his birthday recently, and I was looking through some photos to try and find something just to post happy birthday on District, and I looked through all the photos, and I was like, I can't find one from the first year. I found 2 from the first year where he looked really trimmed, and then after 2018 World Cup,
madness,
that guy must have put on about 10 kilos of pure muscle.
It's mad.
And he never went down.
But I do agree with you. He's kind of, especially he probably almost got that in the Championship last year, maybe when he realised he's got to be.
But it looks like he's grown into his frame a little bit more, which is obviously good for a winger. You want to keep your wingers. Like it's the same with like Garnacho. H has been saying a lot. Was it HTM MUFC? Yeah. He's been saying a lot about Garnacho needing to increase his core strength and stuff. And like it's just it's those little things. Obviously, Amad's 2 years older than him. I think he's gone through that process of maybe he was at the Championship in order to he needed to become a robust player. To be a technical player in the Championship, you need to have you need to be able to take a hit or two.
That's the thing. I criticise United for some of the development, but I think the Sunderland move. I think players like that really take a lot from a Championship loan.
Yeah, it seems to have done him wonders.
But yeah, no, I mean, a little bit of a difference here, but obviously Amad comes in these last 2 games, and United arguably have been better than recently. Even during the loss against Arsenal, I'd argue we played better than recently. I know it's a low bar, but I mean, quickly, Sophie and Amrabat as well. Both of those have come in, and they probably have been 2 of the best players. I was thinking maybe we could quickly give Amrabat a bit of praise because he was getting memed a lot, and I've made the comparison to Maguire, where I think because he's got quite a slow turning radius, he's not really agile. That if like a quick play, like we saw it with Odegaard, he mugged him off massively the other day, and those moments are really memeable, and then it kind of grows and people take the piss a lot. But overall, he's a decent player, and we probably shouldn't sign him on a permanent, because even though he's decent overall, we've seen in these 2 games he's still got a lot of mistakes. Like it should have been a penalty last night against Gordon. But I think he's a decent player. I think we probably would have been better if he played more this season, I reckon.
Maybe, but it is very easy to say that. Potentially, while Casemiro's been at centre-back, and we've played Eriksen and Mainu together, it may have been a better idea not to play Eriksen, obviously in hindsight, but at the same time we were playing against teams where, in theory, you would want a more dominant attacking midfield, because we were playing... I know obviously it's hard to say in hindsight, but we were playing Coventry, Crystal Palace, Sheffield United, Burnley. I can understand why at the time Eriksen was played, because you were expecting to have more of the ball in those situations. But you are right that Amrabat last night, he's definitely got another clip to live off a little bit. Obviously, because with the last minute thing with Isak, that was fantastic defending.
That was the quickest I've seen him running this.
But it was the way he marshalled both of them, I think, was fantastic.
Yeah, it's really, that was, because he essentially forced, I forgot who the first player was.
It was Gordon. It was Gordon running through, passing to Isak, so 2 quick
Yeah,
runs.
he essentially forced Gordon into the pass, and then was able to close down the angle.
That was fantastic.
It was really good.
2-on-1 defending from him.
But yeah, obviously I don't think, I don't know, it's a strange one, because with Casemiro or Eriksen, I think you put Amrabat in there and he does a different job, which I think is because of Ten Hag wants to maybe get the best out of certain players' attributes or whatever, because he obviously drops back a lot more, keeps simple passes a lot more, even though he does misplace a few. And I think I'd rather have him doing that job to a worse standard than like top players, than having a different player who might be good at other stuff do a completely different job. Because even though he's not a Rodri, him just dropping into the back line the past 2 games, and just passing and just doing simple passes rather than doing Casemiro's like first time long ball, which he always tries. I think that's been part of the reason, and them 2 have been good these last. I think both of them probably, Amad more so. They're both making a really strong case, partly because other players haven't been good whatsoever. But to start the final,
Casemiro. I think Amrabat. You are right saying obviously he drops back deeper. That has helped mitigate some of the effects that Casemiro has on the rest of the team. like with the number. I was like almost gobsmacked at times, looking at my TV last night and going, "Where's Casemiro?" And he's level with McTominay.
Yeah.
I'm like, "You're at centre back."
He's done that a few times.
He's done it so many times in the last 5-6 games.
I don't remember if it was Arsenal or the game before, but I remember Kobbie Mainoo almost made a really bad mistake where like he tried passing back to Onana, and I think it might have got intercepted. I don't remember if it was the Arsenal game or the game before, but it was like he was playing where Casemiro was, and Casemiro was like in midfield. I don't want to blame him too much because obviously it is out of position. He is just in bad form and bad confidence. Like he had some good, pretty good moments last night, especially the header off the line. But I think you can see that even the top players who have won multiple Champions Leagues, who you'd think would be confident no matter what, when they do go through some poor form, you can see that it's affecting him, I think. Like in terms of his confidence, like it looks like
his facial expression sometimes. Something's happened, the camera, so the camera's pans to him every single time, and it's just him going...
Yeah, his reactions as well when he gets like a yellow card or something, unreal. So
yeah, it's the hands on the head like this every time he's just there going... Yeah. There was that one where I think it was it against Palace, or no, it was another game away from home where it was a really bad. It was against Aston Villa where someone dived and he got the yellow, and there's just reaction of him just doing this the entire time. I do feel a little bit like some of the Casemiro stuff is overkill. Granted, he has had some shockers at moments, and I think he's definitely at fault for some of the goals we conceded. Yeah. But I feel like as well, you put Casemiro at centre back next to Lisandro Martinez or something. And I think he doesn't have as bad a performance. Maybe.
I do think, like, he's had a poor season, but I think these last, 3 games have probably just been, because he's been very bad in these last 3, it's making people, he's not been this poor all season. He's not been good, but he hasn't been, making, the game before Arsenal. Who did we play before Arsenal?
Nice.
Oh, yeah, bloody hell. That was an absolute stinker. That was his worst game in a United shirt. So, yeah, I mean, maybe back to a more positive, with Ahmad, back to a positive note, because, I mean, we did win, and it's been our second win in about 8 or 10 games or something like that.
Yeah, a win, realistically, a win's a win. I'm happy to watch a win. I'm happy to watch Ahmad score. I like watching Kobbie Mainoo play good football. I like seeing Rasmus Højlund score a goal, back to our top scorer. And just now touching on that, our front 3 against Brighton and then our front 3 in the final, I just want to make the case that I think, and I'm saying this with the best will of the world, that I think Garnacho should be dropped against Brighton. Not dropped in the way if he's playing badly. He has had a couple of, his game level has not been as good, but I think he needs a bit of a rest.
What, to start in the final then?
To then start in the final.
Yeah, he definitely does. I mean, we made this case a couple months ago, and then he went on to score twice or win two penalties against Everton.
I said, it was against the Everton game. I said, drop him. And then he obviously ended up doing really well.
But the point we all made was correct. Still, he should probably be dropped, rested.
Rested is a better word.
He should be rested against Brighton. But if he starts against Brighton and then scores a goal, it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong, because he's 19 and he's started 30 games in a row or something crazy like that. And this isn't a case of a season, someone just starting 38 games in a row. Bruno starts 38 games in a row. You don't
bat an eyelid.
Yeah, you don't bat an eyelid. But this kid only started 11 games last season, all competitions. He was literally the definition of an impact sub. And when he started, it was a narrative where he couldn't really impact games when he started games. He'd be a little bit more quieter. Obviously, defences wouldn't be necessarily tired out. So yeah, I think he could play against Brighton and do well, but I agree with you that he probably should.
I think front 3 against Brighton, hopefully, is left wing Bruno. No,
Bruno.
What? Left wing Rashford, up front Højlund, and then right wing Ahmad. Take off Højlund, and then assuming things go well, touch wood. Rashford and then Højlund come off at 60, and then I don't know what's the crack with Anthony Martial or not. But,
I hope he plays before the end of the season.
I want to see him one more time. I don't really want to see him against City because it's such a big game, but Brighton last game of the season.
Martial versus City is
oh yeah, true. That is
record.
Kind of his bread and butter, isn't it?
I did see. I saw the clip of Bruno's quick free kick to him against City a few
Oh,
years
what finish
back.
that was. But yeah, and then I think, for the final, I think Garnacho on the left, Højlund up front, Ahmad on the right. I think that should be our front three for the final.
Yeah, I wouldn't go against that, to be honest.
But I hope Ahmad plays 90 against Brighton, and I hope Rashford and Højlund start and then come off, just to give Garnacho something.
Like he needs a rest. He needs a rest. It's strange as well, because it doesn't seem like it's like impacting him loads, but it does just like slowly like
it's his explosiveness that seems to have, and his decision making just seems like a split second slower. His explosiveness is like a little bit less impactful.
And it would be nice to actually have him to come off the bench in games. Like next season, I hope that we're a little bit more stronger in depth. We're not relying on him as much. If Rashford is still at the club, which I expect him to be,
he will be,
hopefully he'll be improved and actually probably the main starter. And that gives Garnacho the chance to actually start games sometimes, because he's proven he can impact games from the start this season, but also be that impact sub again, because we haven't had that at all this season. Like a proper impact sub, like he was during Ten Hag's first
last year. It was crucial. Crucial to have him off the bench.
Especially against City. That's why, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that he should be the one who's benched against City, but I think him or Rashford are both the typical impact players who, like, out of the wingers that United have, you'd say that those two are the most likely to probably make an impact from the bench. And I would say, form-wise, Garnacho's got to start, but you've got to have one of those on the bench. Because last season, both times when we won against City at Old Trafford, and during the cup final, which we actually played all right in, but ended up losing. In both those games, Garnacho had huge impacts off the bench.
Oh yeah,
like we should have. He had a shot in the final.
I remember.
I was watching the final back, or the second half of the final back the other day. Literally, such a good little 1-2, and then inches wide of the post,
yeah.
So close.
And so you mentioned the potential of Rashford going, Rashford staying. Last night, Wayne Rooney dropped a little bomber on the world. I'm just going to, for full context, I'm going to read out what he said on Sky Sports last night. He said, "You have to build the team around Bruno. He's the only one player with quality, and then keep the young players, then get rid of the rest. It has to be a massive clear out over the next couple of years. They need better players to compete in this league, to compete with Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal. They need better players." Rooney, obviously, he's done a lot of punditry recently, and I've actually quite liked what Rooney's had to say. It's a little bit mainstream, some of the stuff he's said, in just in the way of it's sweeping statements and blah blah blah. But at the same time, he's been he's very logical with it, and I just want to touch on how right is Wayne Rooney that he's pretty much said keep Bruno, he said young players, and we were assuming that's Højlund, Garnacho, Mainu, and then I'm assuming that's also Ahmad. I don't know if he's including players who are early 20s, such as like Martinez, etc. And I don't know if that extends to Diallo.
It's quite broad, isn't it? It's quite a broad statement.
So I just want to kind of just bring up the idea of, more realistically, how many players should Man United be selling this summer? Like a more realistic number, because I'm thinking there's going to be 7 or 8 people going. Yeah. Like 7 or 8 at least semi-prominent players. So that might be like some people like Johnny Evans are going to go.
Yeah.
He's been pretty prominent. Victor Lindelof's been pretty prominent. There might be some. Well, there's Sofian Amrabat who's going. Martial's going and stuff. Varane's more prominent, and he's going. I think there'll be 7 or 8, 9 exits.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's going to be as.
To be fair to Rooney, he did mention about how it might not happen in one summer, but it should happen over. But I mean, United fans have got, because this is exactly what happened the season before Ten Hag. And I'm not disagreeing that United need loads of changes, because they obviously do. But the season, during that period between Oli getting sacked and Ranić coming in, everyone was like, this is, like, every single player is awful. Where last season, it was proven that, like, certain players can play really well under maybe a certain system, a bit more confidence, etc. And then it's gone again this season. So maybe you can argue too inconsistent, but I think there's certain players at the club who might not be considered amazing right now, but might be better in better circumstances, and they probably deserve to be in those circumstances for maybe a year, maybe 2 years. But then there's also too many players who maybe have either been here too long or not really impressed at all since they've been at the club. And you also just got to think about FFP and getting enough money to bring incomings in. Because as well, speaking about Bruno Fernandes, obviously Bruno Fernandes essentially said last night after the game that he's going to stay.
Yeah,
and also obviously David Ornstein came out and backed that point up with his report. Bruno's essentially staying. There's not many players, maybe you'd say Rashford, apart from the young, like Mainu, Garnacho and Højlund are untouchable. Apart from Rashford now, there's not probably a player who, unless Saudi come in and pay loads for loads of players, there's not really a player who you think could get United loads of money just from one sale. So they probably are going to have to look and go, we might need to sell players maybe a bit cheaper, but sell a few more then. So your Victor Lindelofs, and I did see, I forgot what the report was, but I did see something this week that United were looking at lowering their price tag for Wan-Bissaka, which is a good example of that, where maybe clubs might not come in for 35, 40 million for Wan-Bissaka. You might just need to take the hit and say, okay, 20 million here, and that he's probably worth more than that, but you want to just get a few more players in. So, I mean, back to Rooney's point, I agree with it to a certain extent, but I think there are more players. He's quite broad with the young players statement, but there are players like Diallo, like Martinez. I could probably think of a few more, but those two off the top of my head are two players who've got to stay and to be in plans.
Because you need to keep some sort of consistency. If you're going to do a clear out, you need to keep some sort of consistency.
You have to look to Chelsea.
Keep some players.
Look at Chelsea. They're sixth now and in a better position than us. But over these last 2 years, a lot of their problems, I think, personally, have come from them trying to just mash it all together quite quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas it would be nice if United can. Maybe you won't return to the very top straight away because you're not bringing in 10 world-class players in one summer, which is, you can't expect that. But if you are kind of just slowly changing it all, then I think you might just go on a bit more of a steady upwards trend.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
So obviously we've been talking about, who players should go, who shouldn't go and stuff. I've just, just on my phone, I've got the list of United's squad. I'm just going to list a couple of the players who, there's mixed opinion about who should stay, who should go, blah 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 blah. So I'm just we'll discuss a couple of them. One of them is Victor Lindelof. I'm going to kind of pair Victor Lindelof and Harry Maguire.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like
one stays, one goes.
One has to stay, one has to go, and it's like Lindelof is probably worth a little less money than Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire still being, I believe, 2-3 years left on his contract. Lindelof's just had his extension. He's going to be off free next summer. Yeah. And Harry Maguire at his best is better than Lindelof, but then at his worst is worse than Lindelof. Yeah. So out the two of them, and then the same at home. If obviously you're listening, you're watching, you can comment or whatever. Let us know what you think about the players that we're just about to discuss. Should they stay? Should they go? But yeah, Lindelof, Maguire. Personally, I'd rather get rid of Lindelof and keep Maguire, because I feel like Maguire at his best has more to offer than Lindelof, even though Maguire could fetch a higher fee. Yeah,
I do. This is one that I keep on changing my mind about, because this has been, I think, obvious for most of the season, that at the end of the season it's probably going to be one of them rather than both, because we can't just sign 4 centre-backs in the summer or 3 centre-backs in the summer. It'll probably be 2. But I do, as well, I think you've got to probably think about Maguire's leadership traits, his ability/willingness to play through injury is probably a plus as well. Lindelof is slowly becoming quite injury prone, you'd probably say, even though Maguire has had time out as well this season. It's a difficult one. It depends how much of a fee you can fetch for Maguire. Because maybe if clubs come in for 40 million, that is 40 million
There is
pounds.
no way we're going to get 40 million for Harry Maguire. He's 31.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
of course.
around like 30 to 35 then maybe. I think that's a realistic amount that maybe...
I think 30 is the max we're going to get for Harry Maguire.
Really?
Because last year it was, between 30 and 35. And he's
had a better year.
He's had a better year, but he's now got a year less on his contract.
Yeah.
And we're in the situation now of Ineos have been a little more, reportedly, open to the idea of selling.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, to be fair, like I said with my point a minute ago as well, like maybe we're going to have to take lower fees. I think he is worth around 30 to 35. But if something did come in a little bit higher than maybe what United are expecting, maybe Maguire's the one to go. Because ideally, you don't really want either of them having like a prominent role next season. But I do think Lindelof is a much bigger... Overall, Lindelof's a bigger risk in a side cup. I don't know though. To be fair,
I think we lose less if we lose Lindelof, like immediately, like within the team, in the dressing room, or whatever.
Yeah, it's a difficult one between those two.
Because he's like fine, but
either of them really, like I mean, one needs to go.
One of them will go. And I was going to move on now to one that you think on the surface may just be everyone's going to say, oh yeah, we're keeping, but there is debate, and it's Luke Shaw.
Yeah.
Because this guy has now had 2 3-month injuries in the space of 1 season. He's had a setback. Yeah. We don't even know if he's going to be fit for the final now. He was meant to be. He'll probably go to the Euros because Gareth Southgate loves him. And when he does play, he's great. But just like, almost devil's advocate, just throwing out the idea of cashing in on Luke Shaw and finding someone else.
Yeah. I completely see the argument, to be fair. His injuries have been a problem. I've spoken about in the past how maybe it is because of because Malacia was out this season, he was overplayed. But you see other players are overplayed and they don't get injured for 6 months essentially. So I wouldn't be surprised or against if we decided to sell Shaw. I don't really know how much money he'd fetched. I don't know how much.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think
30. Maybe.
Yeah.
Because I think I think if you're guaranteeing Luke Shaw, the player who is very
he's
good.
A 50, 60 million pound fullback. Yeah.
But there's a massive risk for any club who goes for him. Like there's a risk for United to keep him because obviously he's a very high paid player, very good when he's fit, but also there's that massive risk. I personally, I think United need to get a fullback who they can actually trust to be maybe a starter or a proper I think both Tellez and Malacia have both been Malacia probably a bit more suitable to a good style of play. Like
Tellez was pretty crap.
Yeah, but I think both of those are you can maybe rotate with Shaw, but they're never going to have the same impact in a game as him.
Yeah.
I'd want to keep him, but also get someone where you go, okay, United aren't dropping off when Shaw's injured, or if you're actually rotating him and keeping him fit through that kind of way. I would keep him personally, but I can understand the other.
Next
other
one, I would bring up Johnny Evans, but I actually think he's going. There's been nothing on him. I doubt he's going to be at club next season.
Yeah.
I feel like if United want to keep Johnny Evans, they would have done it by now.
Yeah, but also,
or maybe they'll make the decision in September.
Yeah, I don't think they would. I don't know. I don't think they'd make the decision just on the trend of what Ineos have kind of avoided since they've came in. There's actually been no
contract
extensions during the season. I think it was only plus ones have been activated.
There's the plus ones to keep the value, but they're not really contract extensions in the same way that giving someone a new 4-year deal is.
Yeah, whereas Johnny Evans would actually be. I don't know if he's got a plus one.
I have no idea. But I feel like we brought in Johnny Evans to be a 5th centre back because it seems the club settled. Obviously, barring the ridiculous injury crisis, 5 centre backs is generally going to be enough. And we've now got Willy Kambala. If Varane is going and then one of Lindelof or someone else is going, there are reports that we do want to sign 2 centre-backs. Well, one will be pushing first team. Another one will be maybe someone like Tosin who will play 30 games in a season.
Yeah.
But so I think Johnny Evans will probably go because he's been fine, but he's also going to be 37 next year. Yeah. He is going to be worse next year than he was this year, and this year is probably accelerated his potential downfall, but downwards
I
trend.
wouldn't be surprised if he just goes into a coaching role.
He might go into a coaching role
in the youth team.
Another one, Scott McTominay.
Another. I would say sell, but I do like. I mean, Cam's come on here before and properly defended McTominay, and I do completely understand. Like, even though you can speak about on-pitch stuff, which he has done well in certain games, in a certain role this season, but I do like the off-field kind of things that he offers. Like, did you see the clip of Antony when he had to go to left back against Arsenal?
Yeah.
And he was really annoyed. McTominay was the one being like, mate, sort it out. Go into your position. Like, he is a leader. There's probably a lot of things that we don't see, which he is the kind of character that contributes to. Or, well, I mean, you can't really say much about this season, but in a healthy dressing room, which is doing successful, you do need those sort of characters.
Kind of holds the standards off the field, yeah.
But again, similar to Maguire, I think a different case as well, because McTominay's got age on his side. He's probably in his approaching his prime years. How many years has he got on his contract? Maybe 2 or 3? I'm not entirely sure.
It'll either be 2 + 1 or 3.
Yeah. He could genuinely command like 35, 40 million, I think. And like I said, when you've got maybe only Rashford, who I don't think will leave, you do need to find these fees from somewhere. And I think McTominay is probably one of few players who can generate quite a hefty fee. But yeah, I appreciate the other things that he can offer. But I think maybe 30, 40 million.
I think Scott McTominay is the type of player that United need in the state they're currently in, but United don't need that kind of player for the state that we want to be in a couple of years' time. Like, right now we need someone who can, and it's very cliche, but hold the standards of the club on and off the field, play for the badge, fight for the badge, keep players such as Antony in check. But if we want to play and become the team that Jason Wilcox, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Ineos, Ten Hag, if he stays, Omar Barada, all these guys want the club to be in, let's say, 3 years' time, because Sir Jim Ratcliffe has mentioned a 3-year plan. United don't really need someone like Scott McTominay on the field, and you'll be able to find someone who can have the Scott McTominay-esque mentality at United or for United somewhere else, who also has a better, skill set on the pitch. Someone like Lisandro Martinez, for example, will have the same kind of fierce, die for the badge-esque mentality, while also being a fantastic footballer. Yeah. I feel like Scott McTominay's traits, while they are good for United, they are what we need right now from him. They're not what we will need. It's him specifically going forwards.
Also,
so cash in.
I think for him as well, I know he's a United lad. He loves the club, but I think career-wise, it would probably be good for him to move somewhere else and become like a really important part of a certain team. Because even though he's been really important this year during a down year, I don't see him having the same importance going forward.
Yeah,
in seasons going forward.
Last player I wanted to bring up was Antony.
So.
just sell him. I think kind of Ahmad's performance in the last couple of games is really going to put the nail in the coffin for him, not just with the fans, but with Ten Hag. Because Ten Hag seemed to very much enjoy it. And Antony, going back to the thing I said earlier about the set piece thing, Antony, I don't think is given the role that Ahmad was given for that set piece routine that we tried 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, maybe.
With the whole kind of collecting the ball, because Antony stops there and he takes so long to make a decision.
What's annoyed me about Antony, and I don't like with Casemiro, I don't want to pile in on one player, but what's annoyed me is form's one thing, and he has been terrible this season and most of the last, but it's certain things which he's been doing recently, the Coventry thing where he was goading their players, the reaction to when he turned left back, when we lost 4-0 against Palace, him covering his mouth and bitching about someone to make him out he was you can completely tell. And when he went to left back, he done the same thing to Gabriel Jesus.
I've been in a secondary school playground. We all know what that looks like.
And it's when he went to left back, he done the same to Gabriel Jesus, and it's that's your opposition player, and he's obviously
mates
doing he's saying something against someone, and I mean, you shouldn't really even players who are playing well, you should be like a bit annoyed that if they're like doing that kind of thing. But when you've like almost done nothing for the club, it just seems like that. I think that has tipped a lot of fans over the edge in recent. I saw the reaction to his move into left back. A lot of people were annoyed about that. But in terms, like, I mean, we're not going to get anything. But it's going to be a really embarrassing moment if we sell him for like 25 million, because that is awful. Like, genuinely, probably the worst like transfer movement in history, that you buy someone for 85, 2 years later sell him for 25.
Yeah.
But and that's all I can see people paying for him. So I think he'll probably end up staying, because I don't think anyone's going to pay the money for him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we'll go on loan or something. But
maybe.
Yeah, the last thing we're going to touch on is VAR. So David Ornstein, in his brilliant self, has dropped the news that Wolves have put an official proposal for a vote on June 6th during the Premier League's annual AGM, or whatever it's called, to scrap VAR. And obviously there's been a very mixed reaction of it. You've had quite high-level, journalists such as Daniel Taylor from The Athletic going, yes, let's do it, let's scrap it. You've had other journalists being like, no, we've got to keep it. Then you've got people saying, oh, we've got to change it. I think, unanimously, I think people agree that what is happening right now with VAR is just pretty whack. Like Antony Gordon last night on Sky Sports. That was a fantastic interview with him, where he was just going on about the fact that VAR, like what they're doing. That, I think, was a penalty.
Yeah.
United definitely had the rubber green there.
Yeah,
but we've had the bad performances. Yeah, I think, for everyone who goes like, oh, there's an agenda, or like, oh, the guy on VAR was born in this little town, which is proximity closer to this stadium than that stadium. And it's like, oh, who cares? Like, there's a lot less bias among referees than people claim. But one thing about VAR that irks me so much is the fact that it's actual referees in the VAR room. I think although the whole argument is that they're the most experienced people, they'll understand what's going on the pitch, and therefore be able to make a decision on the replays. I actually think it clouds their judgment more so, because they're I don't quite know how to put it into words, which isn't fantastic when you're talking on a podcast. But I feel like it kind of clouds their judgment, because they're thinking about, what would I give if I was on the pitch and I saw these replays and then I gave it, and I've slow-moed it, looked at it 5-6 times. I think the first thing they need to do is they need to train people who are VAR officials. You get trained as a VAR referee official, and you have the same, 8-9 people who are doing it across the weeks. Let the referees do what they're trained to do, which is be on the pitch, or get rid of them completely because they've made so many mistakes, and find some new referees. But find people who are VAR officials, not officials using VAR. And the second one is I really hope they bring in, I can't remember if they are or not, is bringing semi-auto offsides. They do them in Champions League. They are bringing them in. Because in the Champions League, they've been fantastic, I think, and they were so good in Qatar. Semi-auto offsides were fantastic in Qatar.
One thing, VAR, in a nutshell, like, its current form is not working whatsoever. I don't personally think, and to be fair, I'm not like a regular match-going fan, so I completely understand that point of view, where any VAR massively impacts the experience of a match-going fan. So I kind of agree. If I was going to Old Trafford every single week, I'd kind of agree that I just want it scrapped, because I think it just complicates it for the people who it should be focused on the most. But in terms of just like making the game best, maybe, I think one of the biggest problems, which I don't see many people speak about, is the fact that I think because on-field referees know that the VAR's there, I think it's maybe not like they're not thinking about it, but it impacts certain decisions they make, which then are not over the threshold of clear and obvious, if you get what I mean. So they might see something and they might go, oh, I probably would have gave a foul if there was no VAR, but I'm going to be safe, I'll leave it, and then VAR will sort me out. But because of how strict the clear and obvious error is, most of those like occasions where referees might go, "I'll wait for VAR," it doesn't clear the threshold. So, I don't know. I've always thought about the like tennis system, or where it's like free. You get free.
Oh, well, you get reviews.
Each team has free reviews, offsides not included.
I think that's too chaotic.
Yeah, mate, I don't know.
I think it works in tennis and cricket because
or maybe
the
not
game
even free,
is more. Well, because the game is much more stop-start.
Yeah.
In cricket, the game starts when the bowler starts running up to play. In tennis, the game starts when the guy serves.
Yeah.
And then the game ends and pauses momentarily once the rally or once the shot's taken or once the batters have run. Whereas in football, it's a lot more free-flowing. What I like is how they do it in rugby. But I think that might just be because they have better officials.
One thing as well, like, and I've started playing football a little bit more recently, but I just think I kind of understand, because you can say get rid of the officials, but also who's officiating. I don't know about anyone else playing football, but there's barely any young. Whenever I've played, it's always really older guys refereeing, because I see a young referee come into a Sunday, they're trying to work their way up the pyramid or whatever. They get absolutely abused and probably quit the next year. So I think speaking about VAR or referees in general, there's probably got to be a bigger talk about just developing referees,
how referees are made,
making it actually, because you do look at rugby as an example, and like referees are literally the leader of the game. Like
rugby
everyone
refs,
respects them.
They're so good, but I think that's just because rugby also is a more.
It's a different sport, and
it's a different sport. It was back in the day played by majority. Let's say majority. There was a higher amount of like. I don't know what the right word is, like upper class versus working class people. Football is the working man's sport, the working woman's sport traditionally.
Yeah.
And then rugby, I think there was a little more kind of, it was played by, I don't know, you want to be very generic about it, people from Eton. I don't know. That's what comes to mind with me, where they're like, and maybe they just like maybe respect the referee more or whatever. But in rugby in general, they do respect the referee more. There's more respect, and I think the referee has a bit more power. But I think the other thing about what I said about having VAR officials is it distances the referee from the VAR official.
Because all of them are mates, aren't they?
They might not know each other.
They're all mates.
If you've got, I don't know, Michael Oliver on VAR, who's with Michael Salisbury, who's reffing the game, and they had just flown out to Qatar or Saudi Arabia together 2 weeks before to do some refereeing. They spent a lot of time together. They're going to be mates, and they're not going to want to screw each other over. There is a certain amount of friend bias. Yeah. You detach that. You have the referees ref the games. You've got the VAR officials VAR the games.
A professional relationship.
And I think there's more of a professional relationship than maybe make sure they don't go out for drinks every weekend or something.
Ultimately, though,
they just need to be better. Referees just need to be better.
Yeah, but I don't see there being a solution where everyone's happy, because even though you could say, scrap it, there's so many decisions which referees get absolutely howling, and linesmen get I guess there's more of the close ones, so you won't get players offside by like that, but you might have someone who's a yard on, or quite clearly like that much onside, and they get given offside, or someone. Yeah, there's a lot more
in the Arsenal
blatant stuff
a few years ago, where Aubameyang was like 5 yards onside and he was given offside.
It's like there's a lot. I think
you're clear and obvious errors, like actually clear and actually obvious.
That's why I kind of like this. I don't know. There's some sort of compromise where it's probably the best, but I don't know. I just think that you got to get at the balance between VAR. It can't control everything in a game, but also you can't make it so it's only clear and obvious errors. So then there's so many things where in a certain game it's happening because one referee considers it clear and obvious, and then in another game he doesn't consider it clear and obvious. So different decisions get given.
They are trying to draw a line in a grey area, which is hard to do. Like, you're trying to draw a definitive line in grey with some of the decisions.
The first thing they need to do, and they've done it a year too late, is get those semi-automatic offsides on.
Yeah, I think that will help. That will really help.
The few decisions which aren't subjective, you need them to be spot on. Yeah, and that's going to help. But I don't know. There's no proper answer.
There just has to be better officials as well. Like I'm banging on a drum that's been banged on for the last 15 years. It's the quality of officials in the Prem is just like poo. Yeah. In comparison, you see some other officials that are fantastic in Spain and in France and in all these places. And it is just worse in the Prem. It is.
maybe England in general, because I know quite a lot of like Championship fans
England,
who, and to be fair, like when I was watching Sunderland more last season because of Ahmad and just random Championship games, there are some absolute howlers, and you see stuff online with like League One and League Two or whatever. But yeah, I think like I said, it probably is a problem which the FA need to look at the grassroots up, because who wants to be a referee? Who genuinely wants to be a referee?
It's a grassroots thing. But for those of you at home, let us know what you think about anything we've talked about, about Ahmad, about, was Wayne Rooney right? Was he wrong? Was he too harsh? VAR, should they scrap it? Should they keep it how it is? Should they make some changes? Do you like my idea? Do you not like my idea? All of that stuff. And apart from that, thank you very much for tuning in as always. For those who have got this far, if you have got this far, comment the word pineapple. I want to see if there's anyone who actually does it. Who's got 50 minutes into the podcast? I want to know. But apart from that, thank you very much for tuning in. Remember to listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, like the video, rate us 5 stars, subscribe. Go follow United District. We've got a YouTube channel. We've got all our other social channels. Thank you for United View as always for having us on the channel. And apart from that, we'll see you next week.